Hello, everybody. My name is John Acton. I'm managing partner of DPI and Peer-to-Peer, and I'm delighted to be chairing today's session, the first session kicking off Post and Parcel Live. We've got a very special lineup of speakers from the renowned world of postal, and we're focusing on postal perspectives, where leaders in the last mile will come together for an all-encompassing overview of the delivery industry. These are individuals at the top of their game. They will bring thought-provoking keynotes to whet your appetites and set the stage for the rest of the conference, which I think is going to be fantastic. Also, we would love to hear from you, so please use the hashtag Post and Parcel Live, and on Twitter and LinkedIn as well, please. That would be fantastic. Let's get some buzz going around this event. So the structure of today, we've got 4 speakers for you, 4 outstanding, very experienced people who've got the battle scars and been in the industry quite a while and have got a lot of things to say and a lot of enlightening opinions about things, which they're going to share with you this morning. So we have John Cox, Executive General Manager of Transformation and Enablement at Australia Post. We have Bjorn Ekstedt, Chief Information Officer at Post Nord, Frank Sportolari, the President of UPS Germany, and Peter Sommers, Chief Executive Officer at Emirates Post. Each will be doing individual keynote presentations, one after the other, and then we'll come together at the end for a 15-20 minute Q&A, where you can ask whatever questions you like of the panel, and I'll be facilitating that process for you. So without further ado, let's move to our first speaker. First up this morning will be John Cox from Australia Post. As the EGM for Transformation, John is accountable for strategy, technology, communications, government relations, data science, and of course the Transformation Office. Wow, that's a big list of responsibilities, John. His career has covered a breadth of financial services, banking, payments, insurance, wealth and the markets, as well as of course retail, government services and logistics. Prior to joining Australia Post, John spent 8 years at NAB in a variety of roles, concluding as CIO for banking and markets. He started his career in management consultancy at Accenture, working on large-scale business transformations across the globe. John focuses on culture to make sustainable change and innovating to create customer value. Born in Australia, has lived and worked in Australia, Germany, Scotland and England, and has managed teams across the globe. He's passionate about learning and the potential of education to change lives. I love that, John. When I read your bio, I thought spot on. Education is the start of everything, so you've got my vote already. I'll now pass over to John for the presentation. Over to you, John.
Great. Thank you, John, and hi, everybody. So I'm going to talk today about how Australia Post has responded to the pandemic. Hopefully we'll give you some fresh insights. I know there's been a lot of talk about what's happened in COVID, so try and give you a uniquely Australian perspective on that. And then I want to spend some time talking about how we see the future, and particularly how we're thinking about growth into 2025. So I thought I'd start actually with a video, just sharing a bit about what we've seen over the last year. Hopefully this works. Well, here we go. I seem to have got a technical problem already. Don't know what's happened there actually. Can you guys see that, or is that just me?
No.
No? All right. Well, here's what I'm going to do. Just going to adapt, and I'm going to play the video from within the app so you can see it, but you might not get any sound. We'll go from there. It's got some voiceovers anyway. There was funky music that was going with this. We'll see if we can work it out for the customer section, which I did have a video on later. Otherwise, I'll just talk to it. Oh, we've had it again. Now we tested this yesterday.
Okay, I'll tell you what we're going to do. While we're sorting out this technical hitch, I'm going to move to you, Bjorn, if that's okay. So I hope you're ready. Let me introduce Bjorn to you all. So Bjorn Ekstedt, I hope I pronounced that correctly, Bjorn. Chief Information Officer at Post Nord. Bjorn holds an MBA from Warwick Business School, which is one of the best ones. Bjorn, well done for that.
Yeah, thank you.
And an MSc in Industrial Management and Engineering at Linköping University. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
You did.
Thank you. He is the CIO, Chief Information Officer for Post Nord since March 2016 and has been a member of the group executive team since 2016 and is now a member of the group leadership team. John, we're moving on to Bjorn. We'll come back to you next. Okay. Bjorn previously held positions such as CIO at Sandvik, a number of executive IT positions at Sandvik AB and Vattenfall AB, Chief Controller and a Colonel in the Swedish Armed Forces, everybody, and a number of senior military positions in the Air Force. So I'll now pass over to Bjorn. Over to you.
Yes, thanks a lot. And shift slide, please. And you have said most of it. And at the right-hand side, you can see a little bit about Post Nord, actually. Size of the company, we are the market leader of the Nordics regarding logistics, and we also operate the posts in Denmark and Sweden. And the countries we are present in are, except for Denmark and Sweden, it's Norway and Finland. And we also have a terminal in Germany to bring in all the stuff that you buy from the continent into the Nordics. Next slide, please. So what's happening now with COVID and the ongoing development? What you have seen previously is the digitalization. That's nothing new, but it has actually accelerated a lot. And the requirement when you sit at home, you can't go out to have efficient interfaces and channels to shop from. And also the needs of the customer. I will come back to that shortly, but our preferences has changed quite dramatically. Also, how we get our deliveries during this COVID situation, and then you can also see to the right that we have had a magnificent growth in the e-commerce industry. We have lost out in the B2B naturally because the shops in the inner cities, they haven't been opened or they have sold very much less than before, but that has been compensated well by the growth in the B2C business. And the very interesting thing is the penetration of the segment over 65 that was previously not so into e-commerce shopping, but they have now found out, and especially with the getting pharmaceuticals delivered to home and also groceries that has exploded. Now we are not into groceries in Post Nord. What also we see now is the whole dynamic of the competition that we are in. And just the other day I read about Amazon, and they are now launching the Amazon Day. So not only have it delivered the same day or next day, but you can choose the day when you would like to have your delivery to actually be able to coordinate different deliveries so that you can, if you're home 1 day a week working from home, you can get all your deliveries at that day, for example. So it's a completely new flexibility required in the environment. Talking about growth, we see in the Nordics everything from 10 to 40% expected growth for Black Friday coming up. We have a number of interesting new players in the environment. We have actors like Best, Instabox, Budbee, Bring, Amazon, of course, entering the Nordics, Helthjem and others, local operators. And what we see, they are actually doing 3 things now. They are focusing on the convenience. getting things quickly and fast where you want it. They are focusing on sustainability, so actually promising the large customers, the ones sort of buying it, like Amazon, but also H&M, Zalando, etc., sort of promising them fossil-free deliverables at home. So they are shifting the whole delivery paradigm. So not only saying that we will reduce the company's footprint, but for you as a customer, we will promise you 100% fossil free. And the way we deliver that is also changing by many more options. Boxes, parcel boxes is actually quite popular, and unattended home delivery, and also the geographical spread. These new actors, before they actually were present mainly in the highly dense areas, but now we see them also moving out in the rural areas, in smaller cities. So the whole landscape is changing drastically, and with a high dynamic to it. So next slide, please. No, now you missed one, I think. There we are. So what we have to do from PostNord is it's quite interesting, because when people sit at home and do their shopping, still price matters, even if carbon free, etc., is extremely important and asked for. The cost counts. So we have to be able to provide a low cost, and that is the low price for our delivery. Otherwise, they will not pick us when they sit in the checkout, because there are many options in all the checkouts, and the customers tend to pick the cheapest one first. They are open to pay more for add-on services later in the process, but not when buying, and that's quite interesting. Sustainability I mentioned, but that's more for the customer side, the businesses that we do business with, and also the perception of the brand is important. But for now, we haven't seen any real push for that being the reason for choosing a company at the checkout. Transparency, where is my parcel? When do I get it? In almost real time. Speed, of course, people want it faster. Can I have it tomorrow or today? The interface has to be easy. We can't have complicated web pages. It should be a very simple app and a very simple way of getting information about your parcel, where it's been delivered. And finally, flexibility, the ability to change, to actually get the parcel delivered somewhere else than originally thought of, because your circumstances might have changed. So summarize: unattended, traceable, overnight, and multimodal delivery. That is what we see in the market, with a very strong push forward right now. So next slide, please. And we jump that one, and we take the next one to focus on the more important things. So what we have to do from a business side then is actually how do we integrate different actors seamlessly? We can have smaller actors in the sort of last mile in the cities, riding their bikes, distribution companies. They have to be able to log in to our value chain, into our production environment. We have to have different forms of delivery: pickup points, boxes, unattended home, attended home, etc. We have to be able to add new tasks in our delivery chain in a very easy way and fast, because competition, they do not wait, and the customers, they expect things to happen quite fast. So a flexible IT environment to respond to that. Responsive customer interface, so that they get the information almost real time. And of course, we would like to be able to provide the environmental impact for each delivery. So the receiver understands what do my shopping create for kind of an environmental impact, so that they know, and then they can at least providing the information, and then we set the standard, and then might be able to compare with others as we go along. So next slide. So where are we? We have a good history. We are experienced in what we do, but of course we have an IT legacy. And here we go. So costs, of course, mainly in the logistic business, we have a push data paradigm and batch processing setup. That means that each application takes the file about each parcel, that we get them in batches from our customers like Zalando, H&M. into our system, processed in one application, and then when the application is done, it takes the batch and it pushes it on. As you understand, we can't really trace each item in real time here, and it's very sort of non-robust setup. So it's easily getting incidents, batches are being stuck for different reasons, and the capacity doesn't scale dynamically. So it also not only inflexible, but or more costly to manage. So that's where we are. And I think most of our colleagues and competitors see something different, except these new ones I mentioned before, AMI, Budbee, etc., with the greenfield IT. The next slide. So what we now have set up to do in PostNord, and we are well away on that journey, it will continue. So instead of taking each batch from each customer about the parcel that they will have delivered through our chain out to the receiver same day or the 1 day or 2 days later, we now would like to download it into one data lake. So we put all the files in the same place from the beginning, and we do not move it from there. It stays in that lake. Then, of course, you have to keep track of what has happened to each file, to each parcel. So then we have an engine, a core engine, that actually traces the events. So we know, aha, that parcel has passed the border from Germany to Denmark. Now it has been sorted in Denmark. Now that parcel is on a truck on its way to Stockholm, etc. So, but still, we are not moving the data around. It stays where it is. And we can all the time check the status, what has happened to that data. And we can very fast also then change the prerequisites for how that's going to be delivered, because we do not have to shift things in our applications and in the complicated flow of events through the delivery chain. So that is the essence of what we do. And of course, that would also give us a completely different kind of dynamic. We can, of course, use cloud services in a different kind of way than we did before, and real time, as I said. So next slide. Yes, what's happening? There we are. So what we have set up to do is this. It's not to replace 1 or 2 legacy applications. Instead, we have said that let's design a new target architecture for the whole core environment of our IT within production. And instead of aiming for replacing application by application, and you know how difficult that is and how time consuming, you use a strangler pattern. So we eat out the functions and the capabilities from the old ones. We add new capabilities gradually built on the new technology and the new tools and the new architecture. And when an application is empty, we close it down. And at the same time, the business gets new capabilities along the road. So of course, that takes a little bit longer, and you will have to have double running costs for applications. But at the same time, you will not get stuck into these projects that really are so prone to get delayed and not delivering what has been promised from the beginning. So it has worked well so far. We have done this for a year now, and of course, as we go along. To the next slide, I will tell you how we do it. So this, we have now also transformed not only IT, but also the whole company into using Agile. And we use the methodology of SAFe, Scaled Agile Framework for Enterprise, I think quite commonly used around the world. And that works tremendously well. And what we can do then is to get a much better business drive into what we develop. So this does not, and this is very important, this does not become an IT program run by us, and then at the end of the day, the business starts to ask questions, well, why didn't we get what we actually asked for or expected, and why is it so expensive? So instead, the business is driving using the cadence and the ceremonies that we have in SAFE, making the priorities that ends up in the backlog that we deliver in the sprints, as you normally do when working according to Agile. And they are doing the prioritization. So that's then being connected back into the business plans, the transformation agendas that they have for yearly development of the business, and then into the IT. So that the change of the whole legacy and building the new capabilities and reaching the new architecture is driven by the business transformation plans all the way through. Of course, it will take time, 5 years or so, and it also needs governance, so we can follow up how much has been closed down, what has this cost us so far, so we have good governance in place. And since this is a prerequisite for actually executing on the win-in strategies that we have set for PostNord and decided by the board of directors, they have also approved the change of the environment and getting to the new IT architecture, because they are, it's depending on each other, because you can't deliver the one without the other. And finally, so what does success feels like? So when we have these things in place, of course, there's a tremendous transformation taking place within the business as well. But by enabling this new target architecture and capabilities, we will have a last mile orchestration. We then aim for the market leadership position with the offerings we have, with boxes and unattended delivery, that we can hang things on the door or put it in your garage or anything. We focus on what the customer asks for, and we have a delivery that is fit for the future and sustainable, and we are the cost leader in the Nordics. That was a very fast walkthrough of how we tackle COVID-19, the changes in the marketplace, the competition, digitization, and how we will win in parcel within PostNord and the help of IT. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bjorn. That was really interesting. Don't forget, everybody, if you want to ask Bjorn a question at the end during the Q&A session, please don't forget to pop it into the question box, and I'll be keeping an eye on those, and I'll bring them to Bjorn's attention when we do the panel discussion at the end. Okay, now, John, you're back with us. We're gonna give it another go, if that's okay with you. So
great.
Okay, I'm not going to repeat the introduction. So, John, over to you. Just to remind everybody, John is the EGM transformation at Australia Post. So without further ado, John.
Thank you, John, and sorry about the technical issues. I'm not quite sure what happened then. Just as a reminder, what I'm going to talk about is how we've seen and experienced COVID here in Australia and the response that we've seen. And then I'm going to talk about 2025. I'm going to avoid all videos. I did have two, but I think it's best if we skip those. So really, it has been a phenomenal and really challenging year in Australia. We actually had bushfires at the first part of the year. We actually had our largest peak processing last December, as we've seen more and more growth into e-commerce. But we had our posties having to wear masks much earlier than the rest of the world, just to be able to deal with the smoke along the eastern seaboard in Australia. But once the pandemic hit here, we were actually quite worried that we wouldn't see sufficient volume. We're actually looking across the Tasman to New Zealand, where they had a total lockdown, and they actually saw a substantial volume drop in their parcels. We're actually seeing in Europe, particularly talking to the Royal Mail, where they'd seen significant staff not turning up, and we had actually almost the opposite experience. We saw the largest number of people turning up to work on a day-to-day basis, and we saw the most phenomenal growth that we've ever seen. And just to put it in context, in Australia, we've traditionally seen between 10 and in a good year, sort of 14% growth in e-commerce. And over the last 6 months, we've seen 75.2%. Some months it's actually been as high as 107%. And particularly in the state that I live in, Victoria, where we had a very radical lockdown in what was considered to be the second wave of COVID. We saw substantial growth, both within our post offices and also sending and receiving. Actually, on a daily basis, we were seeing more like 220% growth over the counter transactions. We were one of the few stores that were open, significant growth in terms of merchandise being bought in our stores, but from a parcels perspective, just massive growth. Probably a little bit of context, we've got a lot more to grow than you might see in Europe and in Southeast Asia, and actually also in the US. Online only makes up, or until COVID, it was making up about 11, just a bit over 11% of online shopping, but it's sat at about 14%, and we expect by Christmas that it's going to get to about 18%. So still a long way to go in terms of growth. But as you would expect, with the sort of growth that we've seen, we really struggle to deal with the capacity. As most organizations, you're adding capacity and you plan for it sort of 15, 18 months by the time you pour the concrete, put up the sheds, put in the automation, buy the vehicles and train your additional staff. It's a long time. So having to respond at the pace that we did, we ended up putting in a lot of pop-up stores, pop-up facilities, which is almost like going back to the 1940s and 50s, manually sorting and handling while continuing to scan with the next-gen scanners that we put in place about 6 months ago. But we've seen a real shift in the actual economy as well. There were from a national perspective, we saw really high growth in September of around 82%, which was 7.2% higher than we saw in the previous peak. But then we also saw substantial growth across all segments. What we saw actually shift down was mail, which declined by about 20% over the same period. So a really substantial shift in that volume, which meant that we had to readjust our network. So just in terms of the experience from a shopping perspective, there's actually 8.1 million out of about 12 million households who we actually delivered to over that time, and that brought on around another 100,000 new households who were shopping every month, and really frequent shopping as well. So I might just move on. So as I mentioned, the shift that we saw in letters was significant. So in the address volumes, we would see up until March, we were seeing sort of a 9-10% decline, and then the unaddressed, which is basically what we call in Australia junk mail, was sitting at about 15%. And then from a parcels perspective, it was 12% to 3.3%. As I mentioned, the significant shift as businesses shut down, and a bit like Bjorn was talking about, the B2B actually quietened down. We had an unusual situation in Australia in that one of our major competitors was actually unable to deliver. They'd actually had some major cyber issues. So we actually picked up some of the B2B business. So it wasn't as significant a drop as you might expect with businesses shutting down. And then what we also saw was a lot of businesses were using their stores as dark stores. So they were bringing in the goods to the stores, and then they were acting as if they were hubs. And that's really reflective of the Star Track business in Australia, which is really largely a B2B type product. Sorry, I keep having an issue there with that presentation. So the way we dealt with that is we thought about how do we set up the organization for success. And very early on in the pandemic, we set up a strategy which was to protect, serve, and safeguard. And it's really stood the test of time. The protect was about social distancing and zoning. So lots of screens in the post offices. We had to keep significant distance in our operations. So actually separating people around the chutes, which actually created its own problems in terms of dealing with the massive growth that we had, and the government also restricted the number of people who could come into facilities by 25 to 33%, depending on the nature of the facility. So we had this tsunami of volume. In Victoria, it was, as I said, about 170%. And then on top of that, we actually had to restrict our workforce by up to 33% in some areas. We also very early on implemented flexible leave for pandemic. Anyone who was showing signs, to ensure that they weren't coming into the office and, into the facilities and distributing that. For an organisation that is going to every house every day, had one of the few stores that were actually open in the community. We actually saw 69 cases and only 2 workplace transmissions. So we're very proud of the way that we dealt with the virus in Australia. And then in terms of serving the community, we wanted to make sure that we were keeping businesses afloat. We play a critical role. We have about 80% of all business to consumer parcels, and that resulted in about 61% of businesses who would have otherwise closed coming in and using our services. And we added about 4.2 billion in additional e-commerce value that otherwise wouldn't have occurred. We also introduced some new products to be able to deliver medicine to the doors of particularly the vulnerable, and the government actually also stepped in and funded free delivery for those members of the community. And then also food packaging. We did a number of deals with some of our largest supermarkets so that we could actually deliver food packages to the homes of people who didn't want to get out and into the community. We also, as a result, and it's probably just kind of worth reflecting on, in the nature of Australia is one that we are highly dependent on airlifting between the capital cities. There's lots and lots of space between the cities in Australia. There's really only sort of 4 major cities that you use road line haul for, and a lot of particularly our express products go by plane. And while we had our own fleet of planes, we relied very heavily on the domestic passenger capacity as well, and that completely just shut down. And just to give you one example, we had one city which on an average day would have 250 planes. Even in the last month, that's only back at sort of 35. So we lost a lot of that capacity. We ended up having to go and lease an additional 18 planes to deal with that, and we ended up leasing some additional 20 sites to be able to cater for the capacity that was hitting our network. And then finally, on the safeguarding our business, we went to the government and secured the right to operate through the pandemic, essentially acting as an essential service that was keeping people safe. We also sought temporary regulatory relief, and unlike in Europe, in Australia, we're actually delivering every single day, or every weekday, I should say, the mail service. So we took that workforce and we had them delivering every second day in the metro areas to shift them across to delivering in vans, and they've delivered millions of additional parcels to cater for that mix as well. And we also had some other regulatory changes that were just about easing some of the timeframes that we had to deliver in because of the constraints we're operating under. And then, of course, with the substantial growth, we continue to invest in our network. We put in place a number of additional facilities. We've been rolling out electronic vehicles or electric powered vehicles across the fleet as well. So what that really has resulted in is a substantial shift in e-commerce in Australia. As I mentioned, we've helped about 61% of businesses to keep operating. And for those businesses who went online, we limited their revenue losses to 7%. So quite a substantial benefit to them. And then 73% of the businesses have kept their people employed through e-commerce. So not all of the business sits with us, which is why there's a difference in those 2 statistics. The other element is the businesses that look to drive e-commerce actually had the best performance, and that's purely a function of the fact that they were unable to sell their services. Obviously, there's a number of those which are pure service type arrangements as opposed to delivering parcels. I mentioned the 4.2 billion on that, But one of the things that, again, was really pleasing for us is 79% of consumers believe that Australia Post delivery services were important for them to be able to access core services. So that's banking, it's identity services, as well as being able to get essential goods in the post offices. So I did have a video here, which was our customers just talking about their experience, the assistance through the pandemic, but I'm going to skip that and actually spend some time now just talking about how we're thinking about 2025. And we spent a long time as an executive team in the height of this crisis. Actually, we were doing two things. We were looking very much at how do we get volumes through and how do we ensure that the organisation runs. But we also wanted to make sure that we were setting ourselves up for 2025 and spend a lot of time reflecting on what were the trends that we thought were temporary, what were the trends that we thought were going to be accelerated, and actually what were the new trends. And because of the complexity of our business, some of those are around retail, but I won't go into them. But what we saw and what we anticipate is that people want faster and more reliable deliveries. Kind of sounds basic and obvious, but what was critical was that expectation was managed, and that when we made a commitment that we would deliver on it. And so we have essentially committed to investing in capacity so that even during our peak periods, we would have a 95% delivered in full and on time. And during the pandemic, some of the worst results we saw were actually around the 50% DIFOT, just because we could not deal with the capacity. So it was a really important element for us to invest in. More transparent is really about giving customers visibility of their product through the network, and we've been investing very heavily in a cloud-based event management solution, which is almost ready to go live. We've been investing in a significant amount of automation so that we're essentially building a digital twin that will give us visibility of the overall network, and then we'll be able to communicate that to customers. And we're also running an ETA trial, which from a customer perspective, they'll see a 2-hour window, but we've actually been able to prove that for 95% of drivers who follow the instructions in the app, that we can predict within plus or minus 11 minutes. So we're not quite ready to deploy it to 11 minutes, because if you commit to 11 minutes and then you unpick it, you create a lot of dissatisfaction, even if you've never told them previously before. The convenience, we're investing heavily in parcel lockers as a channel. We sit at about 2% at the moment, and we're expecting to get to 11% by 2025 of all parcels going through the parcel locker. And again, it's probably something a bit unusual about Australia is we're just really beginning to see a movement to substantial volumes of people living in apartments as opposed to sort of the suburban landscape. So parcels become really critical there. And then finally, simpler. And for us, the product landscape is incredibly complex. For some customers, some merchants, they have 260 zones and SKUs, and we're getting that down to under 10 in terms of the pricing complexity that sits under there, which actually falls back into a significant IT modernization as well and consolidation. We've had a number of acquisitions over the years, so we're looking to bring that to a simple state. And just to give you a sense of volumes, actually, when we put this together, it was back in June, and we thought we were being overly pessimistic in terms of the decline in mail. We've actually seen that 20% actually being realised this year, and we expect the mail to decline. And the reason why we exist as a company is to deliver mail. It's the legislation that we are there to support. We actually went into parcels as a way of finding some additional profitability that could then offset some of the mail losses. We've forecasted really a growth rate of between 9%, but 14% high case. We've just gone through our peak planning. We've used some machine learning models to anticipate where we think we're going to be in this peak, and it's already actually taking us to our 2022 forecast here. And the machine learning models, just as a bit of an aside, We've been tracking them on a day-to-day basis, and they're taking lots and lots of different parameters, but there actually have been plus or minus sort of 5% accuracy over an extended period. And you know, for Australians, we've also forecasted when the next lockdown is going to be, which the models are suggesting it's March. Not that we're predicting that we'll have a better crack at that after peak. So in terms of, you know, what are we expecting that our growth opportunities will be, and what do we need to significantly change in our network? The first one is that, you know, customer preferences are changing. I talked about the parcel lockers. We don't have a very strong returns culture in Australia, and so that is also a really big part of the solutions that we are building, and we think that will actually lift e-commerce volumes up. The parcel service reliability is about the commitment, the 95% DIFOT, but it is also about day definite, so that when you click and buy, you'll be able to see the time frame. And through the machine learning models, and also through the step-by-step instructions that we're providing to our drivers, we're expecting that by 2025, probably a bit sooner, you'll be able to click on and actually will predict the time within a 2-hour window of when it's going to be delivered anywhere in the country. And just to give you a sense of that, you know, the delivery timeframes are usually within sort of 2 days within major cities, but can be as far away as sort of 5 days in some of the really remote areas. So being able to predict that requires quite a lot of work in terms of all the merchant input as well. Workforce flexibility is also a really critical element for that, and it's about the mix between our permanents and our contractors, which is probably more unique to us. So I won't go into too much too much detail on that. And then you know, capability and capacity is critical, and we're also seeing merchants change their behaviours. So traditionally, they will have, you know, they'll create hubs in a particular city and send it out. We're seeing more and more merchants as they hit scale actually putting in solutions in each city, and we've also been building 3PL type arrangements to meet their needs as well, and that's fully automated. So in terms of the network of 2025, this is kind of like our mud map. On the left-hand side, you know, it's really just talking about what the customers will need. You know, in essence, more parcels, less letters. We expect by 2025, on the worst case decline in mail and the best case in parcels, that actually will have about the same number of letters as parcels, which is kind of mind-blowing to think about where we were just sort of 5 or 6 years ago. I've covered off the predictability, but the thing that I really wanted to draw out is that you know, customer choice is critical. The way we deliver is going to be critical, particularly in the first and last mile, so that pick up and drop off. And then the final part for us is around the post office network, and it is a real differentiator for us. It's in every town and really enables that sending and receiving experience to be seamless. So with that, I'm going to stop, and thank you.
Thank you, John. That was excellent. Well worth waiting for. But no, really good, really good. And I have to say, I can see the numbers here. I can see how many people are bailing out and leaving the event, and nobody did. So you always had the audience gripped in your hand there, John. So well done. Let's hope, Frank, you're equally as entertaining and effective. I'm sure you will be. So our next speaker, with a great name, Frank Sportolari. Great name. Third speaker this morning. He's the president of UPS Germany. Frank was born in Chicago, studied economics at the University of Illinois, got his BA in economics in 1980. Even before he joined UPS in 1986, Frank worked for 6 years as a logistics manager in Germany for the US Department of Defense. In 1986, Frank joined UPS in Munich and held various positions of increasing responsibility in the finance and accounting department. Between 1996 and 2011, Frank held various positions across Europe, including UPS Spain, UPS Italy, and UPS regional headquarters in Brussels. During this time, he gained extensive experience as controller, managing director, and vice president of European strategy in Brussels. Also, in 2007 to 2011, he also served on a number of boards for the directors of the American Chamber of Commerce in Italy. In September 2011, Frank took over the position of President UPS Germany and has been responsible for UPS activities in Germany since then. Since July 2018, UPS Austria was added to his responsibilities, and in June 2019, also Switzerland. So he has a big span of responsibility in Central Europe. In May 2018, Frank also became president of the American Chamber of Commerce in Germany, which I think is a great honor and a great tribute to yourself, Frank. So well done for that. I'll now hand over to Frank for the presentation.
When you were a child, would you have thought that one day people would be able to meet without even moving away from their desk? Or that cars would drive with no one at the steering wheel? Technologically, we live in times that would have been seen as science fiction when we were kids, at least if you're in my age bracket. There's quantum computers with unbelievable capabilities, reusable vertical landing rockets, autonomous cars, me giving this speech without even being physically present. In fact, this whole conference taking place without taking up space in any hall or building, or let's not forget the communicators of the enterprise. And just think, these guys aren't even 15 years old. Today, we couldn't imagine living without them. So like the phone, some inventions are eye catchers, others are hardly visible. For example, we use artificial intelligence to optimize our smart logistics network at UPS. It enables us to be more resistant to crisis and react quickly to changing circumstances, both particularly important this year. Because not everything thrilling at the moment is positive. We're in the midst of a global pandemic. It has forced us to rethink the mundane, shopping, traveling, or as we see today, giving a speech at a convention. But I'm happy I can talk to you today and that we can all join virtually, thanks to the technological developments mentioned earlier. This pandemic has changed a lot, including the mobility of goods. Unsurprisingly, we've seen a boost in e-commerce. An Opinio study shows that online demand increased in Germany during the crisis, with about half of the respondents saying they bought online more often because of coronavirus constrictions or concerns. An A.T. Kearney study revealed that 30 to 50% of those consumers who bought more online were identified as a first-time online buyer, depending on the product category. Beek, that's the German Organization of Parcel, Express, and Logistic Carriers, predicts a growth of between 1 to 4% overall for 2020, powered by an accelerated growth in B2C deliveries that compensates for a slowed development in B2B. An increase in online orders, of course, results in a greater demand for parcel delivery. Through COVID-19, this trend is sped up and parcel services are recognized as system relevant. But while delivering important medications or just bringing the joy of new packages to some, for others, delivery services are met with resentment. The size and amount of delivery vehicles in cities, their ecological footprint, double parking, all of this is frowned upon by society. So we don't take this status quo for granted, we challenge it. This is what we do at UPS. We invest in innovations that optimize how goods are delivered, because that's what logistics is all about, trying to achieve more with less, trying to consolidate the flow of goods. That's what logistics does. Seen in this light, sustainability is built right into our DNA. When considering environmental efficiency, our main focus is on the last mile of delivery. Already in 2012, UPS started to test making deliveries without using large diesel vehicles via our city logistics concept in Hamburg, Germany. Since then, throughout the center of the city, parcels have been delivered by foot, using dollies, or by e-bike from a mobile or stationary depot that is restocked every day. A 2016 study by the Hamburg School of Business Administration evaluates that the project saves around 78,000 kilometers per year, which translates into 14,000 liters of diesel and 37 tons of CO2 emissions, as well as diesel-related pollution. Throughout Germany, we now use over 70 cargo bikes. Half of them are e-bikes. With our zero-emission bikes, we reduce emissions and congestions in several cities across the country, in addition to Hamburg, Munich, Cologne, and Frankfurt, among others. In Munich, we already supply about 2/3 of the Umweltzone by bike. So UPS City Logistics contributes to emission-free deliveries, reduces the amount of traffic, and takes up less space. Following great results, UPS is expanding this project. This solution is currently implemented in over 30 cities worldwide, including Dublin, Paris, and Portland, Oregon in the US. Another way to tackle the challenges of tomorrow is to invest in research. We run a diverse fleet of alternative fuel and advanced technology vehicles, constantly testing and evaluating how they perform. We call it our rolling laboratory. It operates in suburban, rural, and city center locations. This helps us to determine which alternative fuels and advanced technologies are best for which situation in the real world. With our feedback, manufacturers have improved their products. In Germany, we have been using e-vehicles since 2007. The first conversion of a diesel vehicle to an e-vehicle took place in 2010, and small fleets have since been subsequently deployed throughout Germany. Retrofitting our old diesel vehicles is ecologically sustainable in two aspects. The converted e-vehicles use sustainable fuels, and the conversion itself expands the lifespan of the delivery vehicle so that no new vehicle has to be produced and purchased. We currently have more than 100 purely electric 7.5-ton delivery vehicles in use in Germany, and lately we have also added 30 hybrid vehicles to our fleet. By the way, the size of our vehicles also plays a role in saving fuel. Large 7.5-ton vehicles, like the type you see here on the screen, can load more parcels, so we need less vehicles for our daily delivery routes, which in turn further protects the environment. Recently, we made another commitment to e-mobility. UPS invested in the startup Arrival that creates electric vehicle platforms and purpose-built vehicles. We've ordered 10,000 of its electric delivery vehicles purpose-built for us. And we do that because we're convinced that this technology will be a big part of the future of delivery. But keep in mind, there are no standard answers. The trick is to find the right solution for the right operational area and not to lose sight of the big picture, so that a sustainable fleet design is achieved. To this day, the range of purely electric vehicles is still somewhat limited. This is why we're also testing the use of hybrid electric drives. These delivery vehicles can be run on diesel and thus have a higher range for longer distances. As soon as they enter a city, they switch to electric drive in order to cut emissions where it is needed most. And we are even testing how delivery can profit from autonomous vehicles with a pilot in Arizona. But why stay on the ground? Aren't drones the future of logistics? My answer, no, they are the present, at least at UPS. In the US, we operate our own drone airline, UPS Flight Forward, which gained the first full approval by the US FAA. Take our first drone service, launched in 2016 in cooperation with Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, and the drone manufacturer Zipline. We partnered up and launched the world's first national-scale drone delivery service to bring life-saving blood to remote hospitals in Rwanda. Since then, we have expanded the project and helped fund the construction of 4 zipline distribution centers in Ghana and have made over 35,000 critical and life-saving deliveries in Ghana and Rwanda. As I said before, these are thrilling times, times in which we are searching for new paths, be it by sending labs through the countryside, e-bikes through the cities, or drones up in the air, or be it by learning how to adjust to a virus we hadn't even heard of 1 year ago. Let's not forget, while COVID-19 acts as a brake in many areas, it also accelerates important developments. So I feel that this is a time in which we not only can, but where we must all do our part to shape the future. We at UPS are all in. We're doing the work, and I'm thrilled to be talking in front of so many like-minded people today. I can't wait to see what we're all going to achieve together. As our UPS founder, Jim Casey, said almost 100 years ago, our horizon is as distant as our mind's eye wishes it to be. That could actually be a pretty good theme for today's convention, too. So in this sense, let's go on and expand the horizon together.
Apologies for that, guys. I was on mute, so I'll start again. Thank you, Frank, for your very interesting presentation, unlocking some very things I certainly didn't know about UPS. So I've got a couple of tricky questions for you, particularly on the drone point, which was fascinating. So now, Peter Sommers, welcome. I've known Peter for a long time, and he is now the CEO of Emirates Post, the UAE postal provider. Appointed in October 2019, his mission is to transform the company from government to private, focusing on the fast-growing e-commerce parcel delivery, both nationally, regionally, but also internationally. He's a strategic executive and an entrepreneur in the postal and logistics industry. He is the founder of e-commerce logistics company SprintPack, and the co-founder of SKS and Partners, a network of e-commerce logistics consultants. He was member of the executive committee of bpost, the Belgian Post, until July 2014, and was CEO of bpost Parcel and International Division, a rapidly growing business unit, which was around about 475 million in revenues and employing close to 1,000 people. It covered bpost domestic parcel, international parcel, and mail activities in Europe, the Americas, and Asia. He was also responsible for the innovation project Shop and Deliver within bpost. He possesses more than 25 years of experience in executive positions covering leading distribution, e-commerce logistics, and postal companies, and in-depth expertise in designing and implementing distribution systems, new market entry, M&A, business development, and innovation. Peter has excellent interpersonal communication, negotiation skills, and an ability to develop beneficial internal and external relationships. He enjoys managing and motivating teams to become successful and productive, and thrives on highly challenging working environments. He's also a frequent presenter across the world in postal, transport, and retail conferences, such as this one today. I'd now like to hand over to Peter. And Peter, please don't make the mistake I did by leaving mute on. I'm sure you won't. You're much smarter than I am. Peter Sommers, over to you.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I would like to congratulate the organizer, Triangle and Post and Parcel on this initiative. During these unseen times, creativity is a must. And now that almost everyone has adjusted to participating in a digital conference, it is nice to see they try to make technological advances to improve the virtual platforms. Although in addition to content, personal contact is extremely important during industry conferences to maintain relationships, make new contacts, and ultimately do business with people that you really know and value. This personal contact will be less now, and I sincerely hope, probably like all of you, that we can return to a normal world as soon as possible. Although the question is what the normal will be, the new normal will be, a big question mark to which no one has the answer yet, and many predictions are being released. We will all have to discover it and adapt as an industry, something we can do very well, I believe, and many postal companies, our colleagues, have proven this during the COVID-19 crisis. Therefore, I'd like to introduce you to Emirates Post, how we have adapted to the COVID-19 and the strategy of being the gateway to the Middle East. Most of you will know me from my bpost time as a member of the executive committee with whom we delivered a successful transformation from government to private to public. After 15 years at bpost, I became an entrepreneur and founded a number of companies, all with a clear link to e-commerce logistics. I've been working now at Emirates Post for a year, and I'm leading the company's transformation on a similar path, from government to private and eventually public. During this presentation, I would like to take you to the Middle East. Yes, you can dream away about the sun, the beach, the vibrant city. However, the topics are less exotic, but not less interesting, and will focus on information about Emirates Post, the Middle East, e-commerce market, our e-commerce logistics strategy, and last but not least, Expo 2020. But first of all, allow me to explain how we at Emirates Post adapted to the COVID-19 crisis. Emirates Post has seen very strong growth in the parcel business in recent months. We have the largest domestic retail and parcel delivery network, and as one of the leading last mile players, we are primarily focusing on having a qualitative e-commerce last mile delivery. But the world we know has been changing for a while, and this comes with its challenges. However, COVID-19 has sharpened the already existing challenges of all postal companies. There's an even faster decline in traditional letter mail and an immense increase in online orders, enabling the local parcel business to show enormous growth figures. The last mile players are now regarded by many governments as a vital sector. This journey is not different for Emirates Post. We have seen very strong growth in the parcel business, as I said before, in recent months. As one of the leading last mile players, we have weathered this well, with high quality delivery standards, resulting in many customers to switch to Emirates Post due to competition having quality issues. For many postal companies, it was Christmas or Eid peak time. However, the traditional mail even further declined. At Emirates Post, the safety of each of our employees and of our customers has been our primary concern from the very start of the crisis. Ensuring Emirates Post is a safe place to work and to visit has been the key in the management of the crisis. I won't elaborate too long on all the precautionary measures we have introduced, as the list is extensive. The most important precautionary measures were and still are the daily inspection of our buildings and fleet, installation of sanitization tunnels at our main post offices, obligation to wear masks and gloves, plexiglass coverage at all our counters, and working remotely for all our headquarter employees. We even offered accommodation to our courier drivers who were exposed to COVID-19 in their apartments, and we distributed food and hygiene packs to our couriers and distributors. We also introduced the e-postcard app, a very customer-friendly tool allowing you to upload your own pictures and transform them in a real physical postcard with personal messages. We print a card and deliver contactless to the recipient within 24 hours. We also launched a souvenir stamp to thank all the frontline heroes in the vital services in the UAE. The medical and healthcare teams, civil defense, police, sterilization teams, media, volunteers, as well as courier and delivery personnel. All of them are working and are still working day and night, and as a result have made our lives easier and safer during this crisis. Proceeds from the sales of this stamp will be donated to the Emirates Red Crescent. We launched a new website and an app to improve the user experience and to extend the digital services. It allows us to communicate more efficiently with our customers during COVID-19. I'm proud to tell you that we have made a tremendous turnaround and that the majority of our business is now contactless and managed successfully to keep operations running, continuing to deliver essentials to UAE inhabitants. All these safety measures will remain an important part in the world we live. And that's why I would like to take you on a journey of this changing world. Have a look.
The pace of global change is faster than ever before. Information is available at the touch of a button, and communication has never been easier. Technology has transformed every facet of our lives, which has impacted customer behavior. Today's consumers demand convenience, choice, and reliability as we shift from a physical to an online environment. This shift has impacted businesses around the world. The postal industry has seen a decline in letter and postal volumes as people turn to different modes of communication. However, with every challenge comes an opportunity to evolve and adapt. The increasing growth of e-commerce offers us a chance to provide distribution options for both consumers and businesses. An opportunity to create greater customer convenience through a diverse range of final mile delivery options. Turn parcel delivery from a commodity into a value-added service for senders and receivers, and establish Emirates Post as the partner of choice for its quality, ethics, and customer service. For parcel and express shipments in the UAE, the Middle East, and beyond.
For many of you, the Middle East is not a core market, but nevertheless, it's a region with a lot of potential and an e-commerce market that will be worth $28.5 billion by 2022. And this is the assumption pre-COVID-19. The United Arab Emirates is already known as the hub for the region, as Dubai Airport provides one of the largest connectivity gateways in the world with its excellent support for global business. Especially because the shoppers at the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia spend as much per purchase as shoppers in mature markets like the UK and the US and China, they just shop in a less frequent manner today. There's a massive room for growth. This means that there is e-commerce penetration in the Middle East and North Africa, which was below 5% compared to 15% in the UK. Again, this is pre-COVID-19. If there are any positives to take from COVID-19, the impressive increase of consumers purchasing online will accelerate the resulting growth. The UAE has strong fundamentals and is a great platform for e-commerce growth. In contrary to the e-commerce penetration, the region is a forerunner in internet penetration, as you can see. And most of the inhabitants are present on social media. Almost everybody. This shows a lot of potential. There is still room for growth. Whilst the UK e-commerce market is almost saturated, there are still a lot of opportunities for the UAE. In the UK, 89% of the internet users shop online at a frequency of 18. In the UAE, it's only 63% with a small frequency of 3 to 4. Given the limited production of goods in the region, imports remain important. And of course, this requires the entire supply chain, particularly aviation, which plays an important role for cross-border e-commerce. Cross-border e-commerce in the GCC represents almost 50%. For example, UK at 13 and US at 6%. In 2019, the e-commerce market was $13.7 billion, and with a CAGR of 28%, and they expect that the market will reach 28.5 in 2022, as I said, and possibly earlier, especially since there has been massive growth in the last couple of months. Logistics are fundamental. And to make this possible, of course, the right foundations are needed, especially in logistics, as I said. This was and still is not at the same level in some countries here in the region as it is in more mature markets. But here, postal companies and private players will play their part in professionally support market growth. Emirates Post is already one of the leading players today and has a clear ambition to become the market leader that meets and exceeds current standards, including contactless deliveries. The UAE's highly strategic location in the Gulf means we can offer a perfect gateway to the Middle East. Pre-COVID, Dubai International Airport was already the hustle and bustle passenger airport in the world. It is expected that it will continue post-COVID. At Emirates Post, we have line haul solutions in place from the US, Europe, Asia, and Africa. But of course, common practice in the industry is that our customers organize their own line haul to Dubai. Our offer consists of an excellent local network that works with all modern means and delivers excellent quality, better than what I see at other postal companies in the world. We offer this to local customers, but also to international customers who can easily connect their parcels via Dubai International Airport. And of course, we also have a complete Middle East solution for all cross-border customers, consisting of postal and private solutions. Our Middle East strategy consists of 3 pillars. First of all, we offer our countrywide parcel delivery network in the UAE. And from Dubai, we can inject your packages in the Middle East. Our excellent terminal use position also allows us to be competitive in destinations other than the Middle East. And last but not least, we will soon also be rolling out our ETOE strategy in key countries around the globe. Since its inception in 1971, the United Arab Emirates has constantly been distinguished as an icon for innovation and creativity, enhancing its social and economic status and transforming into a primary destination for talents and businesses in record time. Believing that innovation is the future of human investment, the UAE leadership emphasizes its importance across all sectors. Innovation, research, science and technology will form the pillars of a knowledge-based, highly productive and competitive economy, driven by entrepreneurs in a business-friendly environment. It is no surprise that Dubai will host the World Expo 2020. Let's have a look.
1, 2. You weren't there. You weren't there when humans conquered fire, when they wore animal skin attire or invented the bicycle tire. You weren't there when they created algebra, built the pyramids in Giza, or painted the Mona Lisa. You weren't there when they first made paper or built the amphitheater, when they calculated gravity or made flying reality. You weren't there when they composed the classics or discovered antibiotics, made the mechanical clock, or taught the world to rock. But you could be there and with your own eyes witness new acts of human genius. Be there to see the alliance of art, music, fashion, and science. See a futuristic festival filled with ideas new and radical. Performances magical in a 6-month-long spectacle. This you can't afford to miss. It's the best of humankind in the greatest show of our time.
We are very much looking forward to offering our solutions to all interested parties, and we welcome you in Dubai or online. It will be a pleasure to welcome you at MS Post and at our customer event in November 2021, in which the visit at Expo 2020 is included. The event will keep its name, but is postponed to October 2021 and will run for 6 months. Thank you for your attention and enjoy the conference. Feel free to ask any questions you might have in the Q&A. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Peter. Just check I'm not on mute now. Yes, I'm speaking to you. That's awesome. I finally mastered the technology. I understand, Peter, that the big event has moved to November 2021. That's fantastic. And for everybody who comes up to you and mentions this Triangle event today, you'll buy them a free glass of fizz, which is outstanding. So a big hand of applause for Peter there and his generosity. Just kidding, of course. Okay, we've got some questions already, but don't forget, guys, if you want to ask the panel a question, please go to the question box, put it in there, and I'll spot it and relay it to them to answer. The first question, and this was linked to one I wanted to ask as well, comes from Daniel Krupp. And I'm going to aim this initially at you, Bjorn, but I'm going to open up to all the panelists as well. During your presentation, Bjorn, you said something really, really interesting, which was to do with this lake that you've created, which is sort of the architecture on which you can plug lots of things in, you know, last mile solutions like locker boxes, etc. Now, fundamentally, will this be an open system? So you can have agnostic last mile third party providers of locker boxes, PUDOs, or will you be offering exclusivity? And I think this runs at the heart of the openness of this industry, or is it about basically closed networks? What's your view, Bjorn?
Yeah, the answer is both, actually. So yeah, the data lake where we are putting the files we get in for each of our parcels and shipments is, of course, a post-nord asset and protected. However, it enables us to make new business developments, a new kind of actually form the network with the different kind of actors helping us in our operations. And for them to connect, we will create different kind of APIs and predefined interfaces. So it should be very easy to do business together with us. So that's the setup. But it's not only about last mile. It's also, for example, if we would like to sell excess capacity in our terminals during low peaks, midst of the day, then we can actually, with this design and technology, we can offer that to our competitors, and they will help to finance our assets while we help them, of course, to sort their parcels. But then we have to open up the whole value chain, our production environment entirely, and in the same way with the predefined APIs, with the standardized data lake where we have all the information put in place. So yes and no. And also when it comes to parcel lockers, etc., that is partly an open architecture, yes, where we cooperate with other companies. So it's not post-nord lock-in solution.
Okay, that's fascinating. John, can I ask you the same question really? Do you see your infrastructure from end to end in Australia as being open to collaboration with potentially competitors, or do you see sort of exclusive deals being done?
I'm actually almost going to give the same answer as Bjorn, which is it's both. The reason why it's both is parts of our infrastructure are completely closed. So like our physical parcel lockers, we do not let competitors use them, and we see it as a really key differentiator. We do offer a premium service for post office boxes. So you go into the post office and we have this product called Post Office Box Plus, which enables you to have anything sent to it. Through the actual delivery network, lots of international providers use us. And in regional and rural Australia, it's effectively things get routed through to us and we deliver it for a fee. So some of the infrastructure is open, but largely it's a closed network for commercial benefit to us.
Okay, I understand that. Can I throw that open to Peter, and then I'll be coming to you, Frank, as well. Peter.
Yeah, we have a closed network today, and I think we believe that we will keep it like that, although our network will change dramatically. We are in the start of transformation process here. Today we have around 100 post offices, so it's the biggest network already in the country, but we will potentially go to 1,000 touch points. So the whole collection PUDO network will change dramatically. We will have parcel lockers, we will have PUDO pickup and drop off parcel points, we will have our own branches, the flagship stores, the average size stores, the small kind of stores, kiosks, stop and shop. So the whole network will change over the next couple of years dramatically, just to improve, let's say, the proximity of the Emirates Post with its consumers, certainly in a changing dynamic of mail transformation into parcel and e-commerce delivery. Today we have already more than 500,000 PO boxes, which are, let's say, pickup boxes. It's predominantly mail, but also packages. So we have the largest network in the country, but even then we want to go times 10 in the next coming years.
Okay. And Frank, yourself, for the territories you're responsible for, Austria, Germany, Switzerland, do you imagine UPS opening some of that to agnostic providers?
Well, you have to remember UPS, our business strategy is a little bit different. We're more focused on express and international parcels. But having said that, I mean, we have a big domestic business in Germany and also domestic businesses in Switzerland and Austria. I gotta say, John Cox, I'm a little unhappy when post offices are determined to keep their, use their incumbent strength in certain areas to make proprietary systems. I think the world needs boxes that are going to be truly open to everyone. I can understand you wanting to defend the fact that you probably, and again, I got to apologize, I don't know your relative market position in Australia. I'm assuming it's huge in the parcel business. Obviously, there's big players in Europe that pursue a similar strategy, and we see, boxes all over the place of different colors, and quite frankly, most of the non-postal ones don't do that well. UPS does not do a lot with boxes right now. Our customers are looking for other solutions, but I think that's an issue that has to be resolved somehow in the spirit of, generic, or not generic, but cooperation. I mean, Björn talked a lot about that. We got to get to a point where we do more things together. And by the way, Björn, I'm not sure if you know, but effective Sunday, you and I are partners too, because we're starting to do some business with PostNord, an interesting new product and innovation that we couldn't have done without the help of a postal player. And I think those are the examples that the world needs if we're going to really be even more effective than we already all are. I mean, we all have good and robust business models, and sometimes I think we have to, have the courage to take the step over the last hurdle there and say, yes, we can work together in some areas and then go mano a mano everywhere else.
Frank, I'm just going to interrupt there, if I may. John, I'm going to let you come back at him, but I'm going to help you out as well.
It's easier to do that.
I'm going to help you out as well here, because no doubt, Frank, you'll be sharing all the IP that you've bought on electric vehicles and sustainable development with everybody else as well. I'll let you come back to that in a moment. John, over to you. Back at Frank.
Well, we are paying for some of the IP with electric vehicles as we're deploying, but probably not UPS's. But I think actually it's a fair challenge, Frank, because it's a low margin business, and actually you can build a lot of additional sites that don't get used. And you're right, like the competitors really find it challenging. So maybe just probably two points. The first one is that the parcel lockers that we provide are free to, I guess, people who are using our services. The post office boxes, actually, we've opened up, and that is, all of the points of presence, and the consumer pays a little bit extra to have that flexibility. So we are experimenting with that. There's been a really deep, I guess, philosophical discussion at a company level. Do we open or do we not? Does it take away our competitive advantage? And because we actually have to deliver into regional and rural Australia, we wear a lot of the cost to support that. And so we've tended to go to a protectionist state to offset some of the costs, like the post offices we have to have under legislation. So it's a good challenge, though. I think there is an opportunity. If you were looking at it from a top-down planning, you would say just one set of infrastructure, everybody uses it. But we're looking at it from some commercial benefits as well to us.
I think just jump in again, and Frank, I hope you appreciate my comment was meant in good faith about sharing know-how, because it's really important to do that. But I think the dilemma that the posts have, and I think certainly Post Nord and Australia Post share this challenge, that you've got such a massive geographical territory to cover. Without that critical mass of volume, it's quite difficult. So that would suggest you should maybe open up that last mile a little bit to UPSs and the like. It's about balancing the commercial realities of a declining mail, parcel volume going up, opening up your networks. It is a challenge, but I think dialogue's the key, and I think everything's worth a discussion. I just want to focus on Amazon for a second, if I may. We've got another question here, which I think is fascinating, relating to Amazon. I think it was in your presentation, Bjorn, you said something I wasn't aware of, actually, that Amazon is looking to launch Amazon Day, which basically allows the consumer to choose a single day, if I understand correctly, where all their parcel deliveries will be aggregated for a single one-off delivery of 20 parcels, let's say, which clearly is great for the consumer and the consumer experience. It's great for the environment because you've got one trip to the last mile instead of potentially 15. So I absolutely get that. And I think it's quite innovative, this aggregation concept. Question to all of you, is that something you've considered doing as well? That's part one. And part two, Amazon, friend or foe? Okay, I'm going to come to you, Peter, first on that one.
Yeah, sure. Actually, in your introduction, you mentioned that I was responsible for the Belgian Post for the innovation concept, shop and deliver. In that concept, the consolidation in the last mile to one single delivery at a agreed momentum during the week was part of the plan. Yeah. So it's something that is already on the mindset for a couple of postal operators. We don't have it here yet, but it's for sure something that makes sense, because when people start to buy frequently, it may be convenient to bring them everything what they ordered online at the moment they request, meaning a weekly appointment. And that appointment can be, let's say, the gateway to your door. I explained about the gateway to the Middle East, but it's a gateway to your door, your doorstep, because you can consolidate everything into one delivery, but at the same time, you can pick up everything what needs to be returned. And that could be only the return parcel, but you can go much beyond the traditional parcel delivery. You can include mail delivery, you can go to returns of batteries and waste and many other things, which was part of the innovation track. Having said that, going back to your question with Amazon, Amazon is one of our biggest customers, and they have their own delivery network in UAE, but they also use us as a last mile delivery partner in the UAE. So it comes down to their strategy locally, how they organize themselves. In some countries, they have their own network. In some countries, they rely on the postal operators. In some countries, they have a mix of it. So, of course, they are friends always. And I think we should carefully look at how they deploy, what they want to do. And this kind of initiatives, like an Amazon Day, is not something new, but we should, as last mile players, accommodate it. And they always have been front runners in customer centricity, so we can learn a lot from them and deploy it in our own systems.
Excellent. Thanks, Peter. Frank, what's your views about this aggregation for the last mile? has it got legs? Peter was obviously looking at it in his previous role at Post in 2012, 2013. And finally, the Amazon point for you, are they collaborators or what?
Well, one, with the last mile consolidation, again, I have to point out our business model is a little bit different than, parcel as in B2C parcel. That's part of our business. Our major focus, though, are the express products, which have totally different characteristics, can be set for 9 a.m., 10:30 a.m., 12. We have much more intricate delivery and pickup models, and we are very much against a lot of these things that cities and business areas think about, which is somewhat to just force people to tender everything to one last mile delivery agent. I think that is the absolute wrong step. And I think all of us, where what we've talked about, have shown that our industry is very much capable of finding its own solutions. And I think we're working hard on that. And I think we'll always come up with better stuff than someone sitting at a table somewhere and making great plans. Having said that, we do in the US, for example, since years where, the distances are greater. And if you send a package by ground service from the West Coast to the East Coast, it'll take numerous days. It'll be underway, several days. So imagine, John, you order something that's being shipped from Nevada, and a day later you go online and order something that's being shipped from Tennessee, and you happen to live in, we'll put you somewhere nice in South Carolina. And our systems will recognize that those two packages are going to arrive at your place on Wednesday and Thursday, and they will offer the second shipper an incentive to hold the package and ship it a day later. We'll send him an electronic message saying, are you prepared to hold that package one day, ship it tomorrow? The packages arrive concurrently. So we let the shipper also partake in a little bit of the benefits we get out of that, and that hopefully reduces, 2 trips to your house instead of 1. So we're already working on solutions like that. Regarding the Amazon Choose Your Day, I find that fascinating because Amazon is big. And I think probably anyone in our industry will say, oh yeah, Amazon is a big customer of ours. That's how big they are. Amazon is huge. We all know that. Everyone has an Amazon strategy, which includes valuing them highly as a very dependable customer, but also realizing they're a very formidable competitor. It's an interesting development, that people didn't have in the past. They do have the advantage of knowing what they're shipping before they ship it. We don't know that, right? People give us packages and say, deliver these. But I think it's interesting because in some ways, Amazon has done a lot towards defining what the B2C market is supposed to look like. And in my opinion, for many parcels, it's been defined as too fast. I often go online and want to order a book, and I don't always need it tomorrow or even same day if I order by noon, but there's no other option, right? And shipping's always free because our services, that the industry, that's another topic in itself. This is like a full circle where you go back and say, let us accumulate all this stuff you ordered and we'll bring it on a day of your choosing. So I think it's great, quite frankly, as far as putting a little bit more realism into what the expectations are. I live here in Dusseldorf with 4 kids at home now. 2 of them are students, 2 still in high school. I think we get almost every day something from Amazon, but yeah, it's not always needed every day. So I think I think that's a very interesting alternative, quite frankly.
Frank, thanks for that. I've also got 4 kids, and Amazon, I think they've got a parking space on my drive, actually.
Yeah, right. You know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Right. I want to put this next question to Bjorn and John specifically. Of course, Peter and Frank, you're welcome to chip in. There's a lot of questions from Martin and Graham about locker boxes and about the economics of the locker box business model, in terms of the capital outlay, the utilization of the box, what point does it break even, and the locker box's role in the last mile ultimate solution. Let's come to you first, John, and then I'll come to you, Bjorn. How important is the locker box in the future of the customer experience and the options?
Well, we think it's critical, and as I mentioned, particularly for people who are in apartments, but also for people who are transiting and may not be home and they've got something valuable that's being delivered that they don't want left on their doorstep. So we're forecasting that about 1 in 10 parcels will actually go through a locker box by 2025. In terms of the commercials associated with it, I think that the question around utilisation is the most important part of it. And if you've got good utilisation of the door within the locker bay, and that's usually a turnover of 1 a day or every 2 days, then and you've got someone dropping off, whether it's 60, 70 parcels or up to 100, depending on the size of the bays, then that's actually quite economic. Because you don't have to stop at every single house. You've got one stop and they're filling it up. So we've modelled it and looked at where do you need to put them in order to get that kind of utilisation. And they're not always in the places that you expect. We ran a few experiments with them in shopping, like within grocery stores, and that actually didn't work as well as we expected. They have to be on the way through on the day-to-day basis, almost connected to that last question about, do people want to bundle it up when they go shopping every few days or once a week, or do they want to go and get it instantly? A lot of them actually, they enjoy getting it on a daily basis as they're kind of commuting. So we think it's actually, as I said, 1 in 10 within the next sort of 5 years of parcels will go to parcel lockers for consumer convenience and safety of product being delivered. A lot of merchants like it as well, because they know that it's being delivered, they know who's received it.
It's also, we're not really focused on returns, but I think locker boxes, Budos, are just fantastic for returns.
Mm.
It's a great first mile of the return. Bjorn, over to you. Locker boxes, how pivotal is it?
A little bit different answer here. So it is about 2 things: the cost of the boxes and the customer convenience. So for them, our analysis was that we need more locker boxes. A traditional one with a display, the power connection and connection to the internet, some sort of Wi-Fi, quite expensive to buy, install, and maintain. We wanted to have more boxes at a cheaper price, and I think the supplier has a slot later today here in this conference with box. So actually they are down to 1/10 the cost of these boxes that we now put out in comparison with the traditional ones. So what we have done is actually if you started in Denmark, to put out these boxes wherever people are. So a lot of them. We talk about thousands of boxes. And then you actually have 2 problems. One is then actually it can't be PostNord property, because then these different sort of property owners, they start, why should we allow PostNord to put their box on our property? So then it has to be open for others. All right, so we have an open business model where other logistic operators can join. Then you need to have some sort of interface how to open the box. And we have developed that for the Nordics called Sesam. So Sesame open up, so it's an interface which is open for all logistic actors to make use of. And by that interface, you can connect to the box that it has only a battery, no connection, no display, and you open up your app when you're coming close to the box, the Bluetooth connects, and wow, your box is opened automatically. You don't know which one of it is, but it just opens. You take your parcel, you close the box. What has happened in Denmark is that people or the customer, they tend to actually want to use the boxes instead of getting home delivery, because then they don't need to be home. So they would like to use the boxes. And now we have gotten a problem in Denmark because they are so popular, so they are always full. And so then you have to have a system of if the box is full and people would like to have a delivery, where do we then send the parcel? That has to be to deliver pickup point in that case. So by doing this now, we roll it out in Sweden, in Norway. we can actually provide people with the convenience to pick up the parcels close to their home. It's an open architecture, anyone could use it, and it's cheap. We save money on the boxes as well as we save money on the delivery. That is sort of much more efficient than visiting a lot of houses. But the clue is the locking technology.
Sure. Right, guys, I'm really sorry about this, but we've run to the end. I'm going to give each of you sort of 15 seconds. Say what's the most exciting development in 2021 for you? 15 seconds, Peter.
The rollout of our network, going from 100 touch points to 1,000 touch points.
Brilliant. Bjorn?
I would say the whole convenience concept with the win-in parcel, lockers, etc.
Fantastic. Frank?
I think we all need to figure out what the world is going to look like once the knot is untied, and what the differences are going to be for our world, and be able to react accordingly.
Nice one. And finally, John?
I think for us, it's going to be growth and customer choice. We're optimistic about next year. It can't be worse than this year. It's got to be better.
Let's hope you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, listen, Peter, Bjorn, Frank, John, thank you so much for your presentations and the Q&A. It's been fantastic. Great way to kick off the event. I'd like to remind everybody that's watching, there is an archive room that you can access through the platform where the presentations and the videos will all be in there. And also, many of these gentlemen are going to be sticking around for the next couple of days periodically. Reach out to them through the chat facility or ping them a message over LinkedIn if you've got anything you want to ask them. Thanks again, guys, once more. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. What's been a great kickoff for this fantastic event. Take care,
Good job,
everybody.
John.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank
Thank you, John.